Scarborough is one of the fastest growing towns in Maine, adding about 1,000 more residents than Portland over the last 5 years. But the growth has also sparked some of the biggest debates in town. In this video, I'm breaking down how Scarborough became one of the hottest places to live in the state. After 6 years in this market and hundreds of homes sold, I'll tell you whether the hype is worth it, or if buyers should be paying closer attention to the trade-offs. Now let's get into it. A lot of the greater Portland market right now comes down to one thing. People still want to be close to Portland. They want a little more space, they want newer homes, and they can still get to Portland in about 15 minutes. You can see it in the numbers. From 2020 to 2025, while Scarborough added 2,400 residents, Portland only added about 1,500, and that's the largest city in the entire state. A big reason for that growth is the Downs, which sits on about 570 acres right in the middle of town. For decades, it was just an old racetrack, and project after project failed to get off the ground. 17 different redevelopment attempts failed before the current developers took it over in 2018. Since then, it's become one of the most productive places for real estate anywhere in southern Maine. In about 8 years, the Downs has added more than 700 housing units and brought in over 50 businesses. That led to around 1,500 jobs and more than $350 million in new taxable value for Scarborough. And they're only about halfway done. The full plan calls for about 2,000 homes, with developers projecting more than $615 million in new value once everything's built out. At the same time, more homes and businesses mean properties helping cover the town's cost, which takes some pressure off other homeowners across Scarborough. But not everyone agrees this kind of growth is good for Scarborough, and in a few minutes, I'll explain why. Now, this project didn't just build housing. Maine's first Costco opened here in 2023 and brings in about 1.8 million shoppers each year. People come for Costco, but they also buy gas, grab lunch, run errands, and spend money in other parts of the town as well. The next phase is already underway. It's a $70 million town center built around a new market basket. The store alone is about 80,000 square feet, and it's expected to open this year. You'll have restaurants and retail, plus housing and a boutique hotel. The developers have also put money into infrastructure around it. They're helping fund a traffic improvement project covering more than 30 intersections across town. About a third of the property is staying open as green space too, with about 200 acres of open space and trails being built into the plan. There's a big reason why Scarborough's been handling this much growth while continuing to attract new buyers, but all this growth doesn't mean much if you don't know what living here is like or what homes actually cost. So let's break that down next. Now, if you're looking at Scarborough or anywhere in Greater Portland, please reach out. I help people move here every day, and I can help you figure out what's available, what's priced right, and which areas fit what you're looking for. My contact info is down below. All right, back to the video. One of the reasons the Downs attract so many buyers is because there's a pretty wide range of housing here. Right now, almost everything available is resale inventory, plus one active new condo development. So you're not looking at one product type. There are different ways to get into the community depending on your budget and what kind of lifestyle you're after. At the lower end, you've got cottages at Simplicity Court. These are tiny homes, and there are only 7 of them in the whole development. One came up for sale recently in the mid-400s. It's definitely a niche product, but if you're looking for something smaller and easier to maintain, it's a great option. The front-runner condos are another entry point. 2-bedroom resale units have been trading in the mid to low 400s. I've sold a few of these myself over the years. They tend to attract people relocating to Greater Portland, professionals who want something turnkey, or buyers who want ownership without taking care of a larger property. As you move up in price, you get into the front-runner park townhomes. Most are over 2,000 square feet, with 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and a garage. Recent resales have come in around the low to mid 700s. That's the sweet spot for a lot of buyers. You get more space, a garage, and direct access to trails while still being about 15 minutes from Portland. Single-family homes are the hardest product to find because there just are not many of them. When one comes to market, it usually is priced in the mid 700s. There's also a new condo project being released by M&R Holdings, the developer for the Downs. The units have anywhere from 1 bedroom to 3 bedrooms, and prices run in the mid 400s to the high 700s. Large families usually aren't the main buyer here because there aren't many homes with sprawling square footage. The Downs tends to attract people looking for convenience, lower maintenance, and a newer home closer to Portland. I've even sold homes here to divorced parents who wanted to stay in the school district without buying another big house. That's why the range works so well. Somebody looking around the 400,000 range can find an entry point here, and somebody shopping closer to 800,000 can find something too. And in a few minutes, I'll tell you what I'd be looking at if I were buying here today. The other thing people are buying into is the long-term vision. It's very residential, but it's also very walkable. People use the trails, they spend time outside, and can already see where this is headed. Once the town center is finished, you'll have a market basket, restaurants, shops, and more services right inside the development. Now, it's not one of those massive Florida communities where you never leave. People still drive to work, and they're still leaving for plenty of things. But the goal is to make it as self-contained as possible. And there really isn't another development like this anywhere in Maine right now. The location helps too. You're only about 15 minutes from the jet port and about 2 hours from Boston, which is one reason this place attracts so many relocation buyers and second home buyers. But not everyone in Scarborough sees the growth the same way. There's a pretty strong debate around the downs and what this kind of growth means for the town. That's something worth knowing before you buy here. There's a group called Not So Fast Scarborough that's been pretty vocal about the downs and the growth happening in town. Their argument is pretty straightforward. They think too many homes have been added too quickly. They worry that the schools can't keep up. They worry about traffic, and they question whether the town's infrastructure was ready for this many new residents in the first place. Some people go even further than that. They believe too many waivers were granted during the approval process, and they still question how a development this large got approved at all. And to be fair, I understand where some of the concern comes from. Like we said, Scarborough added more than 2,400 residents in 5 years. That's a big change for any town. When that many people move in, schools get busier, roads get crowded, and the town has to spend money catching up. The school issue is probably the best example. Scarborough has dealt with a capacity issue for years, which is why the town approved a major renovation and construction plan. The concern was real and the town responded, but those projects are still years away from being finished, so families should understand that before making a move. At the same time, I think there's a strong argument on the other side as well. This land sat unused for decades. Project after project failed, then this team came in, built houses, brought in businesses, and people started buying. For me, the biggest thing is that it sold. The home sold, the businesses moved in, and people kept buying into the area. If there wasn't real demand for it, this project would have never grown to the size it is today. Now, that doesn't mean Scarborough has everything figured out. Adding more than 2,400 residents in a few years creates a real growing pain, and the town still has things it needs to work through. But I also think it's fair to say they took a property that wasn't doing anything, turned it into something people wanted, and the market responded. That's why I like giving buyers both sides of the argument. Some people think the Downs is growing too fast. Others think it's one of the biggest reasons Scarborough has become such a desirable place to live. Before you buy here, it's worth deciding where you stand on the debate, because this development is going to keep shaping the town for years to come. At this point, it really comes down to whether what the Downs offers lines up with what you're looking for. If newer construction is important to you, and you'd rather spend your time enjoying the area than taking care of a house every weekend, this is one of the best options in Greater Portland. The walkability is a big part of the appeal too. That's what keeps drawing people here. The nice thing is there are a few different ways to buy into the community depending on how you want to live. If you want something that's easy to lock up and leave, the condos make a lot of sense. If you'd like more space but don't want the maintenance that comes with a larger property, the townhomes are a good middle ground. And if having a yard is important to you, there are some single family homes there too, although they don't come up very often. There's also a pretty wide range of price points. Entry-level options from the mid 400s, while the newer properties push into the high 700s to 800s. That gives buyers a few different ways to get into the neighborhood without everyone shopping for the same exact product. The one thing I'd spend more time thinking about is the growth issue we talked about earlier. If schools are a big factor for your family or you're planning to stay for a long time, it's worth understanding what's still planned around the property you're considering. Some parts of the Downs are further along than others, and future phases can affect what the area around you looks like over the next several years. For the right buyer, the community checks a lot of boxes. The key is knowing what you're looking for before you buy, and making sure the home you choose fits the way you want to live. For the right buyer, this community checks a lot of boxes. The key is knowing what you're looking for before you buy, and making sure the home you choose fits the way you want to live. Most people buying here aren't just looking at the Downs today. They're buying into what's still coming and a community that's still growing. If you're thinking about the Downs or just trying to figure out where you fit in the Greater Portland market, shoot me an email today. I can help you compare your options and figure out what makes the most sense for you. And if you're still deciding between Scarborough and Portland, watch this next video. I rank all 8 Portland neighborhoods and broke down where buyers are still finding the best opportunities. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.